Oh, hi, everybody. It's Ezra Levant here at Rebel World Headquarters in Toronto, Canada. What a pleasure to be with you, as we are every day at 12 noon at this time. I like to sit in this chair Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and my colleagues, David Menzies and Sheila Gunn-Reid, hold the fort Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's a 1-hour live chat, live stream. As you know, YouTube lets avid viewers pump up their comments into what they call super chats. You throw a few bucks behind it, it appears in a bright color. And I make a point of reading all our super chats. David and Sheila do too. In fact, I think it's the funnest part of the show because we like to read them, and also because YouTube actually gives us 70% of that revenue. YouTube has largely demonetized us, but they do share the super chats with us. So if you want to support Rebel News, that's a good way to do it. I see Martin Sable, who's a regular, has already super chatted. What I sometimes do, instead of stopping the flow to read a super chat, is our producer editor Justin collects them, sends them to me in a batch, and bang, 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 I read through them. Then I rant for another 15 minutes, and then I come back to them. So if I don't jump on them right away, don't worry. We always read the super chats, even if we go long. I've got some great news today about a new talent who's joined Rebel News. And I've been in a great mood all day for a lot of reasons. I think we're just firing on all cylinders. I can't believe how busy we are. Today, every week we have every day actually, we have 2 staff meetings, including via video conference. But every Monday morning we have sort of a larger meeting. The chairman of our board of advisors, Raheel Raza, joins. So every Monday we have sort of a big What's Up meeting. And today we had a new store initiative. I don't know if you want to show the Rebel store. We've been a little weak on the store over the last 5 years. Frankly, it hasn't been an important emphasis. We've been focused on news reporting and journalism and activism. So the store, which is very important for other websites, we've sort of neglected it. But we got a full-time store guy now, and we'll put that on the screen when we have that. So he was on the show. And, sorry, not on the show, he was on the meeting, so that's some news. We got Kian traveling. I'm not going to tell you where he is right now because I'll let his video do the talking. We hope to have his new video up this afternoon. He was on location following a very exciting story. Sheila is covering the Media Freedom Conference, co-sponsored by Canada and Botswana. Now, I'm not going to pick on Botswana because it's actually regarded as one of the most liberal, democratic, rule of law, non-corrupt countries in Africa. So I don't want to make fun of Botswana. It's actually one of the best places in Africa, and I hear this I see this not just from reading studies, but from people who spend time in Africa. Botswana is one of the most livable places, the freest places. So I'm not going to poke fun of the fact that Canada and Botswana are teamed up. I will poke fun of the fact that at the Media Freedom Conference, and it's not a live in-person conference, it's a joined by Skype and Zoom conference, so it's not even as much fun as when we went there last year. They're having sessions that are closed to the media. Say what? So let me say that again. Canada, the government of Canada is co-sponsoring a Media Freedom Conference, and they're banning journalists from attending. I'm not making that up. So that's what Sheila's doing today. She's reporting on that stuff. And, we got stuff going on. But we do have a new talent. And it is my hope that during the course of this hour, when we're live, in fact, I just got a note from her right now. Thanks, looks good. So green light. Justin, if you can tell the team, green light. So I'm just going to write back, super, thank you. I'll play it for you. I just wanted, we just did the final edit for her debut video, and I just wanted to run it by her to get her green light, and I just heard back from her, literally right there. I just wrote back to her. So the team's going to put it up, and I'll play it for you. I am very excited about that. I think that's one of the reasons I'm in such a good mood. But also, we've just been killing it. We've just been, you know what? And I'll tell you another, so in the next few minutes, I'll show you who our new talent is, you're going to be impressed. But over the weekend, I was also talking to a contributor in the United Kingdom. Because although our heart is here in Canada, we know that we're part of the world where there's similar thematic problems around the world. So the pandemic lockdown, it's a problem in the UK. It's a problem in Australia. For those of you who know and love Avi Yamini, he is in many ways the best of the rebel. Like his style, his approach, his activism, his good humor, he's a happy warrior, and he's been very effective down under. So we have not had people on the ground in the UK in over a year. Now, I used to travel to the UK fairly regularly, but that was before the quarantine came in. I'd be allowed to go there, but I'd have to sit in quarantine for 2 weeks before I did any journalism. And then coming back, I'd have to be in quarantine for 2 weeks. I can't take a month off work. You know, I used to go there to cover Tommy Robinson's trials or whatever. I used to go and come back in the same day. I used to take the night flight from Toronto, land at 6 a.m. in Heathrow, go into the city, be at court at like 9:30, live tweet from court all day, rush back to the airport, take the 6 p.m. home. I was literally on the ground for 12 hours and had a 7-hour flight on every side. You can't do that in the age of the pandemic. So how do we cover stories in the United Kingdom? Well, I hope that within really a day, we're in a position to sign an agreement with a new talent in the United Kingdom. And it's important that we do. Now, Justin, I see you stood up to take care of something, but I would like to show that British anti-lockdown protester who was arrested. Sorry to interrupt, I know you were running around there. But people say, Ezra, why do you care about the UK? Well, because they're the mother country of the Commonwealth, of which Canada, Australia, New Zealand, etc. are a part. It's funny, John Major, the loser, conservative former PM, just footnote in history, was disparaging the UK the other day. We're no longer great, we'll never be great. Really? I think it's arguable that London is the greatest city in the world to this day. I love New York. I would have put Hong Kong in that class until China crushed it. I mean, Paris is wonderful, but it is not a city. I think London is the greatest city in the world. English is spoken by, 2 billion people? The legacy of the British Empire, the rule of law, freedom, responsible government. I think that's the greatest legacy since the legacy of Rome. I think in terms of rules for living, it's on par with Christianity itself, which has infused the British way of life. I think Britain, and although it is no longer has an empire, is one of the greatest countries in the world. It's not the largest. And I tell you this because I'm an Anglophile. And we care about what happens there. And so when it falls down, we do care. Even Americans care. You know, the Americans have what they call a special relationship with the UK. Of course, America broke away from the British Empire in 1776 in the Revolutionary War. And that war continued for decades. The War of 1812 was us Canadians coming down and burning the White House. But those days are long gone. The essential friendship is stronger than ever, or should be. World War II, the Lend-Lease Act, the Americans having Omaha Beach, Utah Beach on D-Day. The Brits had Sword. Canada was there at Juno Beach. So we love the UK. And so look at this video I saw out of the UK just on the weekend. And I want boots on the ground there in the UK to cover stories like this. Take a look.
I'll take that. I've ordered offence. You don't have to say anything, but it may harm your defence.
Damien, don't resist them.
Fuck you lot. What are you trying to do? I'll go down in a minute. Fuck off. You're going to scream if you don't get down.
Damien, don't let them spray you. Damien, don't let them spray you.
Right. Go! you do? What can I do? You've got my hand, you twat!
They arrested him for not walking fast enough after his dispersal order. Because he didn't leave quickly enough, they've done that. Thank you.
I'm a winner!
Out the road, please. Stop on the road. You need to fit that, please. Carry it. Move out the road.
Move backwards, please. Go down the road.
2 metres. 2 metres. You already in the face. And I'm going backwards. And I'm going backwards.
Okay, go.
And I'm going backwards.
Move. Get going.
I've got a bad leg, I'll go slowly.
Okay,
I've
go.
got a bad back.
Keep moving.
I've got a bad leg.
Keep moving,
I'm
mate.
moving.
Thank you.
I'm moving.
That's your fella, isn't it?
Yeah, my husband. They've arrested him for, I don't know, not moving quickly enough, I don't think.
Hey, yourself.
Hey, what are you doing? You fucking arrest me! What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?
Hey, can you tell me what either the man or apparently his wife, the videographer, can you tell me what they did wrong? Can you tell me what crime they committed? Submit or we'll pepper spray you in the face. What did he do wrong? From what I can glean on the internet, he didn't disperse quickly enough from an anti-lockdown protest. Can you detect, I don't know, maybe you need to be, need a micrometer, maybe you need an electron microscope to see the tiny nuanced differences between how the British police grappled with that man and threatened to pepper spray his face and pushed his wife around. For what? For filming the arrest of her husband. You need an electron microscope to just, there's very subtle police differences between that and how the police in the UK and around the world literally bent the knee for Black Lives Matter protests and Extinction Rebellion protests. I don't know if you saw our show the other day on Remembrance Day. I think they call that Veterans Day in the US. How at a cenotaph at a war memorial in the UK, Greta Thunberg's street thugs literally stepped over wreaths that were laying for actual fallen soldiers to put their Extinction Rebellion wreath on top of them all. Do you have that clip if you want to grab it? Just play it as B-roll. So when someone steps onto a war memorial on Veterans Day, on Remembrance Day, steps over actual wreaths and puts up a counterfeit wreath on the war memorial, above all the real ones, and it's some global warming ad, some gimmick, some prank, and the police are fine with that. The police are standing right there. Black Lives Matter marches in the thousands. Antifa burn the streets of the UK regularly. But you have a lockdown opponent who's not walking away quick enough. Yeah, look at this. Look at this. Act now. Global warming means war. Watch them step over. Those are real wreaths on the ground for actual fallen soldiers. They step over them, and the most important wreath is not to commemorate soldiers, but an ad. What a disgrace, what a disgusting disgrace they are. No police there, that's fine. They even have a photo op. I'm sure the police helped assist with that. But you walk away too slowly from a pandemic lockdown protest, they'll push your face on the ground, threaten to pepper spray you, put you in the back of a police van, and come for your wife. What crime did she commit? Yeah, so that's a long way of saying I'm looking forward to introducing you to new talent in the UK. I think we're going to start off on a part-time basis, but it'll expand from there if things go well. But are we ready with our new American talent? Because you know what, I'm ready even if the team isn't. Why don't we roll the unlisted version? It is my great pleasure to show you our newest contributor, who is going to join us on an occasional basis. I hope she does videos, a couple of videos a week. You probably know her by reputation and her outstanding work over the last year. I had the pleasure of meeting her myself when I spent half a day with her, and she toured me around and taught me about her own city. Do we have the video ready? Take a look at this vid. Our newest contributor.
So Saturday started out very peacefully in Washington, D.C. I should know I was there, but unfortunately 2 unwanted groups showed up, and that would be BLM and Antifa. And then, of course, all hell broke loose, but we'll talk about that. Hi, I'm Kim Klasick for Rebel News in Baltimore, Maryland. Saturday was great. I started out at 10 a.m. at the Million MAGA March with a bunch of Trump supporters from all over the country. People came from California, Massachusetts, just to show their support for President Trump. President Trump even drove through with his motorcade. He probably didn't want to because, let's face it, that was probably a security nightmare for Secret Service, but he did it anyways. And then at 2 p.m. after I left, of course Antifa and BLM showed up to rain on everyone's parade. Now, we can all agree on this one thing because it's a fact. This only happens in Democrat-controlled cities because these outside instigators, these domestic terrorists, understand that they can only get away with this in Democrat-controlled cities. Now, I was surprised to see President Barack Obama in a 60-minute interview actually admit that all of this started before President Trump took office. It started when he was the president.
I don't see him as the cause for our divisions and the problems with our government. I think he's an accelerant, but they preceded him and sadly are going to likely outlast him.
Now, people say, well, how can you blame President Barack Obama, but you don't really hold President Trump accountable? Because again, it started under his reign. He allowed it to get out of control. And the local Democrat leaders would have listened to President Barack Obama had he said, you know what, guys, you gotta put your foot down. But he didn't do that. He didn't condemn the violence. Why? Because in his mind, it's all in the name of racism. Yes, racism. That's what we hear all the time in America. Now, racism does exist, but not to the extent in which Democrats want you to believe. But now there are innocent families and people being caught in the middle of extremist groups basically fighting each other over what? I still don't know. There's never a list of demands. No one ever talks about what it is they need or want. They just want to cause chaos. So, after all the violence that we saw in Washington, D.C., as we saw all the videos come out on Saturday night on Twitter, only 21 arrests were made. 21! We saw way more than 21 people engage in violence. But again, this is what happens in Democrat-controlled cities. For Rebel News, I'm Kim Klasick.
Am I right? Am I right? I tell you, there are many wonderful people at Rebel News. Many wonderful people who have passed through our shop and gone on to great things. A few people who have passed through our shop and gone on to terrible things, truth be told. But we've had so many wonderful people, and I think Kimberly Klasick is just top notch. I think she's courageous. She's obviously very beautiful. She's an excellent command of the issues. I think she brought a fresh perspective to the problems facing Black America, especially in Democrat-run cities. And I couldn't be happier that she's now going to do videos for Rebel News. Obviously, she's got a lot of things on the go, so we're hoping she'll stick with us as long as possible. But it wouldn't surprise me if she is snapped up by a much larger opportunity. But for however long we have her making videos for Rebel News, it is a source of tremendous pride for me and the whole team. I remember when I mentioned this at one of those staff meetings I was talking about earlier, the team was just thrilled that we would have such an outstanding person join us, and I agree. I think that's one of the reasons I'm in such a great mood today. And she did just such a great job, didn't she? So that's Kimberly Klacik. As you know, she was a candidate for the Republicans in Baltimore. And I went down and I visited her, I think it was about a year ago, and she toured me around her neighborhood, which was a heartbreaking place. But she had some very simple steps on how to make it a better neighborhood. I mean, the problems there were so long-standing, but just a few things I believe could have fixed it up. And what was interesting to me is how the Democrat narrative of defund the police was not at all resonant in this extremely poor neighborhood of Baltimore, because those are the places that need protection from crime. In fact, you've probably seen a lot of reports since the election that the defund police narrative by the Democrats cost the Democrats, especially in Latino communities, but also in black communities, and that's one thing that Kim showed us. You know what, I didn't call for it in advance, but I think it might have been in Bill Maher's clip. It was. Hey, Justin, Bill Maher, you know who I'm talking about from, he did an 8-minute video the other day that had a surprising amount of common sense. Alex Pearson tweeted it, and I retweeted her. In it, they interview a Latino Democrat who was talking about how weird the Democrats are about ethnic identity and wokeness. And there's a word, maybe you've seen it, Latinx. So that's like Latino or Latina. But if you read it, it's Latinx. I think it's pronounced Latinx, which is, you couldn't have a whiter word than that. No actual Latino people use that word. And Justin's busy, he's doing something right now, so when he's got it, we'll come back. And I want to show that clip of how out of touch the Democrats and their woke, Oberlin University, hyper political correctness, pronouns in your bio kind of craziness turned off severely normal people, especially black and Latino voters. We'll come back to that later. I do have a ton of super chats, and it's already 22 minutes in the show. Am I right? Is Kim Klacik amazing or what? I'm just so pleased that she's joined our team. Let me get to some of the super chats. I got a lot of them here. Sorry, let me catch up. Noble Canadian, $5. So COVID rules in Windsor, Ontario. It is now prohibited to drink or eat while walking in a mall. Is that for real? Well, what about a food court? What about if you just need a sip of water? Where's the science there? That doesn't make any sense. Is that a rule in the mall, or is that a government rule in the larger health authority? Smoking, $5. I sub to a ton of political channels. Rebel's the only one with videos that don't show in my subscription feed. Happens a lot. Something you should look into. Oh, absolutely. And I think I've told you before, we have a rep at YouTube who talks to us. And in fact, she's, I think, one of the most senior Republicans in the entire organization. I think she's one of the only Republicans in the entire organization. And we ask her questions like things about that. And she answers honestly, which is, yes, you are, Google boosts the videos they prefer. And what I like about our contact at Google is that she tells us the bad news, and she's not emotional about it. She's a loyal YouTube employee of some tenure, I must say. And she don't fib. She says, yeah, we boost the CBC, we boost CTV, we boost Global, because we call them quality news sources. And I don't think she's admitted that they de-boost us. And it is true, we occasionally have videos that get 1 million views, just not as often as before. And yeah, I hear all the time that people don't get notifications of our live stream. Oh, I hear in my ear that Justin's got that clip. Let's just play that, just let me show you what I'm talking about.
Let's ask Ruben Gallego. He's a congressman from Arizona, and he was asked how his Democrats could do a better job connecting to Latinos. He said, first, start by not using the term Latinx, which the vast majority of Latinos have never heard of, and when they do, don't like it. Who likes it? pandering white politicians who mistake Twitter for real people and don't get it that Latinx is like fetch. You can try to make it happen, but it's never gonna. Virginia Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger said after the election.
All right, if in my recollection, the Latino congressman himself said it, but yeah, I mean, hello, Latinx voters. It's like that clip. Hello, what's the name of that actor? We were just talking about him the other day. Steve Buscemi. Hello, fellow kids. You know the clip I'm talking about with this middle-aged guy. Hello, fellow kids. I like rock bands. Hello, Latinx voters. I am with Democrat minority outreach. Yeah, what a pleasure to have Kim Klacik rebutting that insane Democrat narrative. All right, let me whip through some more of these super chats here. Trump 2020, $10. Ezra, take at my video below. All right, I'll take a look. Ross N, $7. Absolutely no discussion on CBC of any right of center on cases versus deaths, false positives. Oh, exactly right. What's a case? If you have no symptoms, do you have a case? If it's a false positive, does it count as a case? If you triple the number of people you test, half of which are false positives, does that count as a case? Those are good questions. Kyle O'Connor, $10. Hi, Ezra. How do you feel about AJ's incapability of correctly pronouncing your name and promoting the Canadian Sharona 21 conspiracy before your hosting take? Okay, that means Alex Jones. I guest hosted half an hour of Alex Jones' InfoWars show last week. I thought it was a lot of fun. And for you, my Rebel live stream viewers, you would have said, Ezra, we heard all that stuff before up here. I was sharing stories from Canada and Australia with Alex Jones's American viewers, and the feed was taken right from the studio here. I didn't go down to Austin. So frankly, if you are a regular viewer of Rebel News, you probably would have thought you were just watching a rerun, but it just had the InfoWars logo at the bottom. I don't know what Canadian Sharona 21 is, so I just don't know what that is. I didn't watch the show before I came on. I did my show, and then I had like 10 minutes for lunch, and then I did his show. So I don't know what you're referring to there. I speak for myself, and I take ownership of the words I use. I don't follow everything Alex Jones says, but I thought it was a good opportunity to speak to his audience. And again, like I mentioned before, we care about the world. We care about our homes and our homeland and our country and our neighborhoods. I think that's a conservative way to look at the world. Your family, your neighborhood, your community, your city, your country. But we are also interested in the world, and one of the reasons why I'm interested in the world, besides the fact that we come from the British Commonwealth, we've inherited that, is that we can learn, we can see what goes wrong. For example, the state of Victoria, that's the southeast part of Australia, has done everything wrong with the pandemic lockdown, and having a reporter, Avi Yamini, right in the heart of it was very educational to me. And now I see various Canadian pundits calling for a Victoria-style lockdown, which is insane to me. But I wouldn't have known how bad it was had we not had boots on the ground in Melbourne. And I hope to be in a position to announce a new London-based journalist, let's say within a week. And why? Well, because we have viewers in the UK. We have hundreds of thousands of viewers in the UK, in fact. But also because I want to tell Americans and Canadians and Aussies, look what's happening in the UK. I'd have to check on Avi Yamini's viewership stats. I'm guessing most of the people watching Avi are not in Australia. They're probably in Canada, America, UK, watching what's going on there. Same thing, God willing, we get our UK reporter up and running. There'll be a lot of Brits watching him, of course, but it wouldn't surprise me if most of his views are elsewhere. I think it is perfectly legitimate. Our heart remains in Canada, and as you can see, we have a lot of reporters here in this country. What a wonderful addition of Kim Klacik in Baltimore. But I think that we can learn from other countries, obviously. I mean, that's life. You learn from other people, learn from other people's experiences, learn from what they did well and what might work here. There's a saying, don't reinvent the wheel. If someone's done something and it was a disaster, take it as a cautionary tale. If someone did something right, like Sweden, and it works, well, how about learn more about that? I see all these Canadian pundits saying we got to learn from Victoria, the state in Australia. Where are the Canadian pundits saying we ought to learn from Sweden? Jewy, $7. What can Biden do without working with Republicans? By the way, the House is going to go Republican in 2022. You know, it's interesting. Can we call up the New York Times page and go to Congress? Because it's obviously extremely noteworthy and remarkable that from the presidential point of view, states like Alaska are not yet called. Like, that's just crazy to me. It was absurd how late, North Carolina was called. I think that as Donald Trump Jr. says, all the glitches go one way. If things aren't being called quickly, that raises my eyebrow a bit. And look at this on the Congress side. We were told that Nancy Pelosi we were told by pollsters, we were told by Pelosi herself, that she would increase her hold on Congress. Now look at that. Thanks for calling that up, Justin. So the Democrats picked up 3 seats that were held by Republicans, and the Republicans picked up 10 seats that were held by Democrats. And you'll notice there's 14 seats remaining. Now, you need 218 for control, so there's no doubt about it. The Democrats will control the House, but at a much reduced margin. And can you show me where can you go on the map and click on some of the undecided ones, not the flip ones, the gray ones. So this gray one here, Iowa, is a very narrow margin, isn't it? That's an impossibly narrow margin, but it is a Republican lead. Okay, there's a narrow margin with there's another Republican lead. You're going in the gray places. I can't see where your cursor is. New York District 22. Okay, I don't know that one up. Yeah, go to some more of them. There's some in California out west there. I can't quite, Republican lead. That's a healthy lead. That's a 1-point lead. Show me another one in California. That looks like a Republican pickup, again, by a Latino. Only about 100 votes. Very, very close. Probably going to have a recount. Burgess Owens, very exciting in Utah. A black Republican. Very exciting. So what you're doing is you're going on these gray undecided. Is that what you're doing there? So you'll notice that if I'm looking at this, there's another one, Lee Zeldin. Is it Zeldin or Zeldin? I can't remember. Not all of them, but a number of the ones the New York Times has seen fit. Now there's one leaning Democrat. You'll notice that a lot of them favor Republicans. So scroll up just a bit more on the page, show the numbers. So already you've got a net gain of 7 for the Republicans, and of the 14 remaining, again, I didn't add it up there, but thanks for scrolling over it. I think more than half of them are going Republican, I think. So you're going to have a significant gain in the Congress for Republicans. This is interesting and exciting to me. I understand that every single Republican pickup so far has been either a woman or a minority candidate for the Republicans. That's very interesting in itself. And I can assure you if the shoe was on the other foot, we'd be hearing about nothing but in the mainstream media. It also is another factoid. Did Joe Biden really have this great blue wave? Doesn't look like that in these congressional seats. Did he have negative coattails? This does seem to support Trump's narrative of vote fraud, vote rigging. If the Republicans are picking up 7, 10, 15 seats, despite the media onslaught against Republicans, did Joe Biden really have this great blue wave. Doesn't look like that on the Congress side. Anyway, let me get back to some super chats, and then I'm going to show that car vid, that one you and I were chuckling about earlier. In fact, let's do that now. You know what? We saw Kim Klasik's great vid about the MAGA march, and she's the best. So this vid is from that same event. So there was a guy on the side of the road with a Trump flag, I think it was a flag. And someone drove by and tried to grab it. That's not very nice. But that's Washington, D.C. for you, 90% Democrat. But you want to see karma in 30 seconds? Like the narrative arc here in 30 seconds is almost impossible. In fact, it's so perfect. I know this is legit, but it's almost too perfect to be real. Look at karma work its wonders in 30 seconds. Take a look.
This motherfucker, he lost. Nice thing he did. No, it didn't. He lost. Stupid asshole. That's what you get, bro. All that hate. 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 Look what it gets you, man.
All that hate.
See what that does for you?
It's unfortunate that it happened, but
Why did you miss
man, that is. Oh, and now you got the cops here.
That is unbelievable. All that hate. And then the guy, when he smacked, it is unfortunate what has happened. He's speeding away because he was trying to rob that guy of his Trump flag and go home and tell his other soy latte drinking wokey liberals that he stole a Trump. That would have been like a war souvenir. But he couldn't get out of the hands of the Trump guy. He sped away because he was worried maybe he'd be hit through this open window because he tried to steal it. He smashed into a lamppost surprisingly hard. Like it looked like he couldn't get out of that, right? Like he couldn't back out. That's a lot of damage. I mean, first of all, he couldn't get out of there. Can you play that again? I want to hear the sound of that car and then when he revs it to try and get out of there. He couldn't get out of there. Take a look.
this motherfucker? He lost. Nice thing he did. No, it didn't. He lost. Stupid asshole. That's what you get, bro. All that hate. 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 Look what it gets you, man.
All that hate.
See what that does for you?
It's unfortunate that it happened, but
Why did you miss
man, that is. Oh, and now you got the cops here.
Yes, it's unfortunate that this has happened. And I'm a very respectable person now. I just tried to steal your flag. I read in the comments someone said he was spitting. I didn't see that myself, but I've seen that in the comments several times there. It's unfortunate that this has happened. That passive voice. It's unfortunate. Events transpired. Mistakes were made. You know that classic line. Mistakes were made. It's unfortunate that some mistakes were made here. It's unfortunate that some spitting happened and that an attempt at a flag napping happened. And it's unfortunate that my car is now impaled on. It's all so unfortunate. I want to know how that story ended. He hit that hard. And I don't know, I don't know what happened there, but it immobilized his own car. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. All right, let me just whip through a few more super chats. I think I can get back to what I was doing before all these super chats. Where are we there? Dr. Fye, $10. Attorney Sidney Powell was talking about the Dominion voting program, now possible proof of widespread fraud. Is this system used in here? If so, should we have an investigation into our last election? I don't think it's used in public elections, but I know the Conservative Party of Canada did use it for their own elections. Is Kean's video, is his first video up on the subject? Kean did a great video on that. And I hope it's online now. And even if it's not, let's play it here on the show because I don't want to wait. You know me, I'm extremely. There's two things people say about me. The first thing they say is, "It's up." Oh yeah, it's up. People say, "Ezra, you're extremely polite." I get that all the time. I'm effing polite, and people say, "Ezra, you're so patient." Like it's like you're in slow-mo. It's like de-stress, like, dude. So both of those things work together, the politeness and the patience. The video is up on the YouTubes. And Justin is just teeing that up. He'll let me know when that's ready. In the meantime, I will. So I'll come back to your answer in a second. Jewy 280, Dems hate law and order unless it's masks. Isn't that the truth? Trump 2020, $5. It's their fault. Start fighting back. Civil war peaceful is out the window. It's coming here guaranteed. Well, we don't want to have violence, and we don't promote violence. I think the conservative approach to violence is that you have the right to self-defense. A man's home is his castle. Sometimes the police can't always be there when you're in trouble, but I don't believe it's the conservative way to break the social contract that Hobbes spoke about in the Leviathan, where we give the state the monopoly on violence and we agree to work within the instruments of the state. Lawsuits, police, courts. Our side does not believe in vigilantism. Martin Sable, $5. UK sent whole station to this mate. Why not focus on actual crime like trafficking kids in the UK? If Trudeau hates guns so much but travels with armed RCMP, yeah, a lot of ironies you point out there. Justin, just give me the heads up when we got that new Kean vid. Canadian vegan outreach. Well, you got your work cut out for you here, mate. $20. Scary. Steinbach Freedom Rally in Manitoba this weekend had almost 500 people. I've been to Steinbach. I love that town. 500 people at a protest in Steinbach. That's quite something. 3 amazing speakers, and the one politician that spoke was ticketed $1,296 fine. CTV set right up in front of his car for a photo op to scare Manitoba. Well, I thank you for bringing this to my attention. I think I might have been aware of this story before. We have so many things flying by us and so many things in our tips email. But I'll have to check if that's on our radar screen, because there's just so much happening right now in this file. Jan, £5. Hello, Ezra. If you're interested to understand more what's happening inside the United Kingdom, I highly recommend checking out the UK column. Okay, I'm unfamiliar with that, but I'll try and remember it. Alex, $5. Wexit, BQ, Atlantic Bubble, is the Federation dead and walking? Hey, that's a good observation, isn't it? I don't like the Atlantic Bubble, but I can understand it. The irony is Justin Trudeau has announced he's bringing in 1.2 million new migrants, half of whom aren't even economic, half of whom will go directly on welfare and social services. So I, as a Canadian, cannot travel to Halifax, St. John's, Fredericton, Charlottetown. Wonderful, beautiful places. I am a born and raised Canadian, 4th generation. I cannot travel there. But Trudeau is putting 1.2 million foreigners ahead of me to see my own country. I find that sad. And unconstitutional, by the way. Timothy Powell, £5. Have you any plans for a book or two on events going off this year? Well, Timothy, it's so funny you say that. I did publish one book a couple months ago called China Virus. You can find it on Amazon. For now, I should tell you, Amazon has banned it twice. It's a very Canada-centric book. In fact, the subtitle, going from memory, is How Justin Trudeau's Pro-Communist Ideologies Put Canadians in Danger. So I don't think the book would be of great interest to folks like you, who I presume are in the UK. I do have another idea for a book, but I'm trying to get my friends and family and coworkers to talk me out of it, because writing books is the worst thing I do in my life. It stresses me out, stresses everyone around me out. I'm miserable. I'm a master procrastinator. I'm like Yoda level procrastinator. I'm like galactic level procrastinator. And a book is the worst thing to do if you're a procrastinator, because there's always something more interesting and exciting to do, like alphabetizing your fridge, putting it in alphabetical order, or color coding your shirts. There's always something more pressing and important than writing a book. So, but I do have a book inside me. I hear in my ear that Justin has the new video from Kean Bexty that specifically addresses the Dominion voting systems story. And let's take a watch of it together. Here it is.
The United States really should have checked with Canada before employing these scandal-plagued Dominion voting systems in the 2020 presidential elections. The more you dive into it, and trust me, I have, the more you realize how deeply entrenched they are in every part of the quote-unquote democratic traditions of North America. In fact, allegations of voter fraud follow Dominion voting systems so often, it's hard to keep track of all of the elections in which shenanigans are alleged. Despite that, state election officials, both in Canada and the United States, continue to trust them, for better or for worse. Sure, they might have donated $50,000 to the Clinton Foundation, but who cares, right? Well, you should. Every American should. Every Canadian should. DVS is used in every single one of Georgia's 159 counties. They're used in many of the swing states that just sent their electoral votes, surprisingly, to Joseph R. Biden.
In Antrim County, ballots were counted for Democrats that were meant for Republicans, causing a 6,000 vote swing against our candidates. The county clerk came forward and said tabulating software glitched and caused a miscalculation of the votes. Since then, we have now discovered that 47 counties use this same software in the same capacity.
Dominion voting is not just throwing the American presidential election and their entire democracy into disrepute. They have done it with Canadian elections time and time again for years and years. But nobody in Canada, much less the United States, has bothered to take notes on that because, well, Canadian media is generally complacent and they don't care as long as their guy wins. That's Justin Trudeau most of the time. Consider what happened in New Brunswick, a small Canadian province, during their 2014 general election. The local election authority rented over 700 tabulating machines to count the votes instead of their traditional by-hand method. The race was neck and neck, and many thought that the Conservatives were going to overtake the Liberals. All of a sudden, the tabulation of ballots was suspended Monday around 10:45 p.m., very late at night. Does that ring any bells? For almost 2 hours, as concerns arose about technical glitches with memory cards and discrepancies with the vote counting machines, well, 2 hours later, after that anomaly, the Liberals gained a commanding lead all of a sudden and formed government. What do you know? That's not to say that Conservatives don't use Dominion voting systems or trust them, trust their hardware and their software. They do, happily, despite the consistent technical and voter security concerns reported so often with Dominion voting. In 2020, the American election wasn't the only one where these ubiquitous tabulators made millions of people question the results. The Conservative Party elected a new leader this year, sort of like what happens with the DNC and the RNC during their primaries. The victor will challenge Justin Trudeau in the next general election in Canada, and the Conservative Party of Canada was worried that people would claim voter fraud like they did in 2017. See, those results led to one candidate coming out of nowhere to beat the preferred candidate by just less than 1%. Does that also sound familiar? See, in 2017, reports questioned how 7,466 votes seemingly appeared out of nowhere. The guy who needed just a few more votes magically got them. According to Michael Harris, quote, serious questions were raised about whether the vote that put him in office was rigged. That was in 2017, and they needed to shake that to ensure that the same allegations of overwhelming voter fraud when using Dominion voting systems didn't come back to haunt them in 2020. Of course, they still did. Despite live streaming the ballot counting room on YouTube for days, that's when things broke down. Dominion voting machines started literally ripping up the ballots, destroying them, and leading to election officials needing to tape them together or recreate the ballots entirely. Hundreds of them. Can you believe that? Of course, the mainstream media is not mentioning this at all. I had to confirm with several sources within the party that Dominion Voting Systems was indeed the owner of these ballot-ripping machines. See, the mainstream media won't tell you this because mentioning something as stunning as a vote tabulator, literally ripping up ballots and random people needing to tape, fix, or altogether entirely recreate them, would cast even more doubt on the security of the systems, and thus the American election, and thus Joseph R. Biden's incoming presidency. Sean Hannity reported that Dominion Voting assured them that, quote, no credible reports or evidence of any software issues exist. Dominion Voting says that it was human error. It makes any reasonable thinking person have to ask, what about these shady systems leads to so much, quote, human error? And whether it is these machines or the people using them that causes routine ballot irregularities, who can you really blame but the company running the opaque democracy machines? All this is to say, America, you really should have asked Canada about these machines before you decided to use them in your swing states, no less, to determine the course of a superpower for the next 4 years. For Rebel News, I'm Cian Bexty.
Cian just killing it. We should have more on that story today. I want to whip through some more Super Chats. I appreciate your support. Mike Epp, 10 euros. The Great Reset. This implies going back to some time of previous days to reset, to turn the clock back to some previous exemplary time where we somehow lost track of. So, and then one of two. The second one from Mike, 5 euros. So what days does the globalist and Trudeau mean? What days before exactly is he referring to? You know what? I saw that yesterday. And I tweeted. Can you show my tweet? We'll play the video second, but you know what? My tweet, let me just tell you. I just saw it, and I'm on the weekend, and you know I'm wasting time on Twitter because I'm an addict. And so I just, so there's the tweet right there. I thought this was supposed to be a conspiracy theory, but here it is straight from Trudeau's mouth. The pandemic is the excuse for a great reset of the world led by the UN. And let me just tell you, I can't even believe it. I just wrote that in a second, and I'm looking at my Twitter stats on my phone. 2.6 million impressions, including 1.9 million media views just from my little tweet. And I don't know, I mean, that's got to be one of my most popular tweets, and I didn't even do anything. I just sort of was grouchy for a second. But here, let's watch the video, and I'll show you what people were mad about. And this is real deal, by the way. Take a look.
Building back better means getting support to the most vulnerable while maintaining our momentum on reaching the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the SDGs. Canada is here to listen and to help. This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset. This is our chance to accelerate our pre-pandemic efforts to reimagine economic systems that actually address global challenges like extreme poverty, inequality, and climate change.
That's a real video. Now, it looks a little grainy because looks like someone was filming Global, which was picking up a feed from somewhere else. We found where that feed is from. That was actually a United Nations joint press conference between Trudeau, the Secretary General, and I think the Prime Minister of Jamaica, who seems like a nice guy. And Trudeau, as he often does, speaks the most candidly when he's speaking to foreign audiences. He forgets that maybe some Canadians are watching. So we found the original, and what you saw there on Twitter was actually a mashup, like a supercut, as they sometimes say, of a few different clips. On my show tonight, on the Ezra Levant show, named after Ezra Levant, which is me, at 8 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to go through the larger video that was extracted from and show you some of the other things he said. And I'll show you the source of this, and it's just really quite something. It's funny how there was a bit of a delay between that press conference and when this video went viral. You would think that what he said there was newsworthy, but for some reason the media party didn't report it. I wonder why. The Great Reset, United Nations, Sustainable Development Goals. That sounds like a QAnon theory or someone mentioned Alex Jones earlier. Yeah, Alex Jones talks about a global cabal of pedophiles. Have you heard of Jeffrey Epstein and Harvey Weinstein? And if you have, and how they escaped scrutiny and justice for so long, how can you dispute that there is, and if you follow the case of the rape gangs in the United Kingdom, how can you dispute that that is not a conspiracy theory, but a conspiracy fact, the fact of a conspiracy? And how can you say, oh, it's crazy talk, globalists? Well, you just heard Justin Trudeau himself say it in a manner that would, you can't go any kookier than what he just confessed to himself. Fraser McBurney, $5 despite the rain and wind. We had a nice turnout last Sunday for a Hugs Over Mass rally. Hamiltonians consider coming next Sunday. Keep well all. Thanks, Fraser. Canadian Vegan Outreach, $5. Ezra, you're doing amazing work. I might be the one vegan conservative. I support facts. I'm working hard to wake up others. Thank you for all you do. Well, thank you. And you know what? I think I might even know who you are, because I have some vegetarians write to me whenever I poke fun at vegetarians and say, stop pushing me away. And I always apologize, because in fact, there's one particular fella here in Toronto who's such a generous supporter, and he's such a rebel supporter and lover, and I shouldn't take cheap shots, so I apologize. Kyle O'Connor, $2. I meant the leaked Corona 21 memo from Canada. I've debunked that, and I want you to see my debunking. My point is, I just showed you what Justin Trudeau is really saying. How about go after that rather than some leaked memo that's obviously a hoax? Arlene Williamson, $7. Have you considered interviewing Tom Woods about the COVID cult? He has a great YouTube video about this COVID sham. I have not seen that video, so I don't know who Tom Woods is. Matt Kircher, $5. Hunters report Chinese military in rural south central Saskatchewan. I don't believe it. Pictures or it didn't happen, as the kids say. Picture, it didn't happen. Viking Insane, $2. Build back better, bigot. BM Castro, ain't that the truth? All right, it's 12:56. I think we've caught up on most of our stuff. Am I behind on any super chats, or did I cover them mainly? Oh. Yeah, I read that one. Well, I want to show, now there's a video, I'm talking about the PCR video. I want to I'm still learning. There's different tests for the coronavirus. Some tests for it. Yeah, and I'm not going to try and explain it because I'm still learning. If someone says, did you take a COVID test? That could mean a number of things. One of the tests is called a PCR test. And I don't understand it, but one of the things I think I understand is that you can set the sensitivity of the test at, to be extremely hypersensitive. You're going to get a lot more false positives than a normal setting. I just want to play for you because you'll see Dr. Anthony Fauci make an appearance here. Take a look at this.
Let's talk to Mike Yeadon. He's former chief scientific advisor with Pfizer. And we see these stark figures, they're reported in very sort of ponderous tones on the television. We've had 500 more deaths or 400, whatever it is on any given day. These are deaths with COVID, not of COVID. So you can have heart disease, you can have cancer. If you test positive for COVID, you still end up on these statistics, don't you?
This is what I'm saying. Everything you're being told, every scary fact and prediction from Whitty and Valance, all hangs off the PCR test, which they have admitted they cannot tell what percentage of positives are false. The test is not to be trusted. Everything they're telling you about, cases, admissions, people in ICU and deaths, all pivot off this PCR test.
When you do a PCR test, you basically amplify the amount of RNA, and that's called the cycle threshold. You can basically pick up a single copy of RNA in an individual.
A cycle threshold of 35 or more, the chances of it being replication competent are minuscule. You almost never can culture virus from a 37 threshold cycle, even 36. You got to say, it's just dead nucleotides, period.
People who've recovered from the virus and they're clinically well, and you can no longer culture virus from a sample from their mouth or airways, still can be positive in the PCR test. And that's because, as you say, the test is not a test for virus, it's not a test for living virus.
You can put in a threshold level which says you are infectious, which is a cycle threshold of about 25. And if you do that, you can pick up the people who are infectious. But the way we're deploying the test at the moment is in a sort of ragbag way that says whatever amount of RNA you've got on board, you are positive.
A cycle threshold of 35 or more, the chances of it being replication competent are minuscule.
And a cycle threshold above 35 generally is people who are not infectious.
All right. You can see that was a bit of a mashup of different interviews, but I'm still learning about these things, so I'm not ready to make a pronunciation myself. But if you are testing for vestiges of a virus that are so minuscule that you cannot even culture them, you can't even get it growing. If your test is calibrated to be that hypersensitive, It's junk science. Now here's Kulvinder Kaur, who's a doctor, a leading doctor in Ontario. This is where we got the video from. She said, according to the Public Health Agency of Canada, in Canada they test from 33 to 45, Ontario's 38 to 45. As you heard from Dr. Fauci and others, you will by design be picking up people who are not sick, and the virus that is detected is so minuscule it has no possibility of infection. That's what I understand that to mean. Now, I'm still studying, I'm still learning, but I found that educational enough and persuasive enough that I wanted to show it to you. I want to do more studying into that. I want to confirm for my own self what the PCR level is in the different tests in Canada, because that is not my area of familiarity, let alone expertise. But I wanted to show that to you from Dr. Kulvinder Kaur, who I do trust. Kyle O'Connor, $5. Alex Jones is promoting the COVID-21 memo before your show. All right, well, like I say, it was very funny. At like 11:58, I got a call saying, hey, Ezra, can you do the show? I said, well, I'm about to do my show in 2 minutes. They said, come on at 2. So I did my show from 12 till 1. And then I was interviewed by Alex, and then I did his show. So I did not watch what was on before him. And I would have been happy to discuss that memo, which I've done on live stream several times. Kate, $5, just took pictures of a new COVID camp in my small town. You guys should check it out in Brockville. Well, why don't you send us those pictures to tips@rebelnews.com, because we are interested, but we are also skeptical. I'm skeptical that there are Chinese soldiers in Saskatchewan. I don't believe it. But if you have pictures, I'll go from there. There's a video that's been circulating of Chinese soldiers on Salt Spring Island. They are indeed people of a Chinese ethnicity. They are in fact dressed in military fatigues. They were in fact in Salt Spring Island. But upon further investigation, it looks like it's more like a boot camp, semi-cult, self-help group of Chinese Canadians who were like in some boot camp there. It was not the actual Chinese military. So we have to be open-minded enough to reject a hypothesis after we've tested it. I say again, I played for you that Trudeau clip of what he really said. We don't have to go hunting for speculative, made-up things when you've got these facts lying right in front of you. You don't need a fake hoax memo when you've got Trudeau making every admission you could ever imagine. We don't have to say that there's Chinese soldiers in Canada when we see how Trudeau has lovingly done business with China. Stick to the facts. There's enough of them to keep you quite busy. Dr. Fye, $20, I respect police, tough job, but between the unconstitutional, unscientific, economically destructive lockdowns and the one-sided policing that some officers conduct, Black Lives Matter, railroad blockades, etc., my patience is wearing thin. I'm in the exact same place as you. Peter Gabos, £5. Hello, Mr. Levant. About those PCR tests, have a look what their inventor, Mullis, have to say about them. Basically, he said they are not for diagnostic. I will look into it more, and I just wanted to give you a tantalizer of what I've seen, because I myself am tantalized, but I am not yet confident enough to make a conclusion. Tyler Beach, $5. Love the Rebel. We have a mutual friend that passed away, Stephen Bazan. As you're kind of late on a lot of things, just saying, again, love the Rebel. I know Stephen Bazan. I, in fact, was his lawyer. Can you believe it? I was his lawyer. How long ago was that? That would have been in the 1990s. Did you know that? I was his lawyer. I'm trying to remember the year. That would have been like, when did I practice law? I didn't practice law very long. That would have been, I don't even know. Let's say 20 years ago. But thanks for the remembrance. I think I got them all covered. I think I caught up to all the super chats. Is that right? I think so. Well, folks, what a pleasure to be with you today. I'm in high spirits because our team is just firing on all cylinders. Sheila's on the Media Freedom Beat today. You just saw a new video by Keen about Dominion voting. Kim Klasick, unbelievable. David is always up to something, and he just sent me a script of a major video he's working on. Drea, one of my favorite people in Vancouver, going full tilt. I had the pleasure of having dinner with her out there in Vancouver a couple weeks ago. Tamara Ugolini, she's a little bit preggers, as you can tell, so I'm not sure how long she'll be able to continue doing stories with us, but as far as I'm concerned, as long as she wants, as long as she can. Andrew Chapados is in his final day of quarantine. He went down to a Trump rally, and they said, no, you're not essential. That's not work. You got to quarantine for 2 weeks. So he's been home for 2 weeks. Have I covered the bases? Anna Slatz is in a secret location, working on a project for her right now. So everything is just given her. And I really appreciate the support that you give us. All right, it is 1:05. Do we have a dog video today? We do. As you know, we like to end these live streams with a dog video because it always makes me feel better, and I hope it makes you feel better too. So goodbye, everybody. Tune in tonight. I'm doing my whole show on this great Reset Justin Trudeau thing. We found the original tape. I'm going to go through it tonight. Go to rebelnews.com, click subscribe. It's $8 a month. You get a full TV-style show from me every day. Plus, once a week, you get a show from Sheila Gunn-Reid. Once a week, you get a show from David Menzies. And importantly, you help keep the Rebel strong. Now, especially for folks who are given super chats. $8 a month to subscribe to the Paywall show. That's not much. That would be like just, 25 cents per super chat or 30 cents per super chat per day. So $8 a month gives you the Rebel News Plus, and you can get that just by clicking subscribe on your website. I'm going to go. I'll see you tonight at 8, and here's a dog video.
No. Yeah.
Hey.
Sing.